Hello, you all. Today is July 15th, and this is the day that I remember because this is the day that cancer came to say hello, and it was also the day that I was diagnosed with cancer. And I'm going to talk to you about that day. And it's really interesting because the thing that I learned the most about that day was that no matter what happens to you, life does not slow down. It continues to go, even if you get the worst news in the world. So first of all, I just want to say welcome back to the channel. Those of you all who are coming back to visit, if you've not subscribed, please subscribe. And if it's your first time visiting the channel, I just want to say welcome. Please subscribe if you like the content. And also, you all comment if you don't mind. I said also a lot, excuse me. Now you all, my eyes may look a little tired because I am tired. Today is an emotional day for me. 2 days ago was my birthday. It was yay! And then today is the day that I go through all the steps that I need to go through emotionally to get me ready for the next year with this cancer journey. So I've done this video 2 times already, and my eyes were just looking way too tired, and I didn't mention anything about me being tired. So I'm like, you all need to know I'm emotionally worn out from today, but it was a good day. I had grand visions of this 10-year anniversary of being like on a cruise or at some resort hotel for like a week, but that did not happen. So the next thing that I wanted to do, another thing that I wanted to do that I modified was I wanted to go to Red Lobster, the restaurant I was working when I first got diagnosed with cancer, and I wanted to take pictures at the very spot that I was sitting at when I got the call, and I wanted to eat there. But I realized I'm not a big fan of their food. And it's not because I was a manager there. It's because they made changes since I was a manager there. And if you follow Red Lobster News, you know what I'm talking about. So I did go with my Aunt Robin to Red Lobster, and we spent part of the day together because this is also the anniversary of her husband Stan when he died. It was his death anniversary. So we went to Red Lobster. We went to the movies and we went to Red Lobster. I took pictures at the bar. I talked to the manager there. He took pictures of both of us. And then we went to go eat at another restaurant, and it was a steakhouse. It's Longhorn Steakhouse, and I wanted steak. And the reason I wanted steak is because that was one of the foods, beef, I gave up for years after I found out I got diagnosed, because I found out that beef is one of the foods that fit the type of cancer that I was fighting. And so I cut it out. So I wanted to celebrate this year by eating some good beef. So that's what we did. Now, let's talk about 2015. My family calls 2015 like one of the worst years we've ever gone through. But in the middle of it being one of the worst years, it was a lot of good stuff that happened that year. And I'll tell you the good things that happened. My youngest daughter graduated from high school. My oldest son graduated from college. I did 2 weddings that year. 2 big weddings. I consulted on several other weddings. My numbers at the restaurant got better. I had been hired on and was at the Waco restaurant, and the numbers were not looking too good. But by the time I left for chemo, the numbers were looking very well. So there were some really good things that happened. Excuse me, you all. But let's talk about the challenges of 2015 along with all of this. Some of the challenges are not that bad, but I'm going to start from the beginning. It started because the kids had come home for the summer vacation, and my son had just come down for like Christmas or whatever. So all the kids were together. My kids were together, and my son called me in January. He was sick, and they said it was going to take him 3 months to heal. 3 to 6 months to heal. He had some kind of I don't even remember what it was. But and it was a blessing that it wasn't as bad off as it could have been. And so it's like, okay. So I went and took care of him. Then I got the call from my daughter who was at college. Now, one was in college in College Station, Texas A&M. The other daughter was a sophomore in college, and she was at University of Texas at Arlington, which was almost 2 hours away the other way. And so I went and took care of her, and then my daughter at home got sick. So I thought, okay, what a bang. What a way to start 2015. It's going to be great. Now, mind you, the reason I said that like that, because I was also dealing with the fact that coming in as a manager to a restaurant that was not doing so well, servers get used to doing things the way they want to. Some of them should not have even been working there. So I had to come in and set the standard. And setting the standard made a lot of them angry. So they got together. And the only reason we know this is because they put the plan on Facebook. But they had gotten together and decided to try to get me fired. So they started making up a lot of lies that they collaborated together. So I was dealing with that, as well as rebuilding the team, setting standards. People were firing themselves, and because they weren't meeting the standards that were just company standards. And I was also getting our numbers to rise. So that was going on. And then in April, my youngest daughter turned 18, and her brother thought, well, it'd be really great. I'll come down and take my little sister to the movies on her birthday. Well, on his way, on a Friday night, on his way back home, it was raining. And it was one of those highways. There were 2 lanes on each side, but there was a huge grassy area in between. Well, a couple on the other side was going too fast, and they hydroplaned, and they came all the way across this huge grassy area right in front of my son. He was going 60 miles an hour. He couldn't stop. He hit them. They were fine. He hit an embankment. He ended up not being so fine. A lady who witnessed the accident happened to be a x-ray technician. She saw him holding his chest. She said, I think his lungs may have collapsed. She called an ambulance. They came, and that was what happened. His lung had collapsed. He ended up staying 11 days in the hospital, you all. He was supposed to graduate in May, the next month. But because he couldn't finish some of his work from school, they decided that he needed to go another semester, which was very upsetting to him. So that happened. And I'm like, okay. Then a daughter who had a pre-existing condition that was recurring got sick, and she was in the hospital. And I was like, okay. But in the meantime, you all, of all of that, my senior is having, I had to find her prom dress. In fact, it was so close to prom, and when my son got out of the hospital, that I had to go find her prom dress, get all that stuff taken care of. We had graduation to get taken care of. But we were finalizing things for her to go off to college in the fall. So that's going on. And then we had, we had parties. She had her graduation party, and then her going off to college party that we were all planning, that I was planning, excuse me. And so, of course, her dad and everybody else, they were helping, but that was primarily on me. So that's going on. So then July 1st, I get biopsied. And we're waiting on results. They said it could take 2 weeks to, or more. And I was thinking it would be the or more. Most of the time it is. But and my birthday was on the 13th. So we found out on the 15th, I found out on the 15th that it was cancer. But in between that time, you all, I was doing 2 weddings because I was a restaurant manager, but in order to de-stress, the artsy side of me, I wedding coordinated, and I was doing 2 nice size weddings. One was and now I'm in Texas. One was in the Dallas area. One was in the Bryan College Station area. They are 2 hours away both ways from me. Yeah, I'm sitting in the middle. One was 2 hours south of me. One was 2 hours north of me. Well, I just finished and we planned for a year on both of them. So I just finished the one in May. Beautiful wedding, went off great. In the middle of all the stuff we had going on, we got that done. The next wedding the wedding date was July 16th, okay? The day I got the call to say I had cancer, I had their wedding rehearsal, and I had to pack everything before I went to work. I was working a 9 to 6 shift. So I had to pack everything before I went to work so that I could go straight to the wedding and do the rehearsal or straight to Bryan College Station, do the rehearsal. And I was going to drive back home, then come back and do the wedding the next day. So anyway, that was what life was doing at that time. So let's talk about the day I got diagnosed. I was standing in the bar, and at 4 o'clock, the bartender at the bar, she answered the phone, and she said, "Miss Sabrina, you have a phone call." I looked at the time. That's how I know it was 4 o'clock. And I said, So I said, okay, I'll take it in the office. I had a feeling it was my nurse navigator. She was the lady who was there with me when I went through the biopsy that they introduced me to just in case I had cancer. And so I get to the office. She asked me if I wanted to know the news now or wait. I knew because of me and everything I had going on, it would be better for me to know now so I didn't have to worry about it. I could compartmentalize it and deal with it after the wedding. And so she told me, and I had a white piece of paper sitting there, and I was just kind of doodling as she was talking. She's going through all the stuff, that they do on the phone, to get you whatever. And then she said there were 2 tumors that we biopsied, and I'm writing all this down. And she said one was negative for cancer. And I went, oh, great. And, I was like, okay, maybe I don't have cancer. And then she said, and the second one was positive for cancer. So I'm writing this on a white piece of paper, right? And so I'm like, okay. And then she's, basically doing all the stuff that she's going to do. But the first thing that came into my mind when she said this, the first thought that came to my mind was, I have now entered the cancer world. I knew at that time my life was changing. And it wasn't a negative thing. It was just a knowing. It was like God was just saying, prepare. And so I said, okay. So I got off the phone with her because I got a phone call on my headset. We wore headsets as managers from someone. They needed me up front. A customer needed my help. So I left the piece of paper there thinking I was going to come right back. Went and did what I needed to do. Well, my GM went into the office after me. And I know that he saw the piece of paper because when I went back and realized, oh, I got to get that piece of paper. I have cancer on that. He saw it. And he said, so, you have cancer, and he had tears in his eyes, and it made me sad. And I said, yes. He said, well, do you need to go home? I said, no, because I have to go to a wedding right after this. I have a big wedding, and I have to be there, so I'm fine. I said, I'll finish my shift out and everything. He said, okay. So I did. And then I went to the wedding rehearsal, and I was walking real sore because along with doing the biopsy to the breasts were sore, but also I had a biopsy done to all the tumors that they had found in my abdomen that I will explain at a later date, everything we found and how that all plays into everything. And so when my OBGYN had done a biopsy just a couple of days before on those tumors so she could find out if they were cancerous and what we needed to do, it made them angry, is what she called it. And so I was like, okay, that's why I'm so sore. So I was walking very gingerly during this wedding, but I did it, you all. The Lord gave me the strength I needed to do this beautiful big wedding. It was one of those weddings. I've had a couple of those to where they didn't think as many people were going to show up as they did, but I'm always prepared. If I know these people are popular, I'm always ready for more. And so I had an overflow room just in case, and we filled that overflow room. So anyway, so that was that. And after I found out, now the bride, when I do weddings, I get really close to the brides. And this bride was a little older than me. And the thing about this couple is the husband's wife had died of cancer about 3 years ago. And her husband, the bride's husband, no, the husband's wife, yes. And the bride's husband had died of cancer 4 years ago. So they met each other. It was a great match. Made in heaven. They're still together. Great couple. And so I didn't want to tell her, but she knew because she had been in the cancer world with her husband. She knew what was going on. And so she asked me that night. I went to her house after the rehearsal because I was tired, you all, and I didn't feel great. She said, well, just come to the house. So I went to the house, and we were sitting there talking, and she asked if I wanted to spend the night. And I said, yeah, I do because I'm tired. And the plan was spend the night at her house, get up in the morning, have breakfast, go home, and then come right back. And that's what I had done so that I can get ready for the wedding. But when we were talking, which was very, very good. It was good for her, it was good for me, because life had been just going at a fast pace for both of us. It was a time to de-stress before the big day. And she flat out asked me, do you have cancer? I didn't want to say yes, but she said, please tell me, because it will make me feel better. So I told her, and that was July 15th. And I am worn out just thinking about it. All the stuff that was going on, life did not stop, because right after that wedding, I had to move my other daughter, my sophomore daughter, back into college. I had to get my youngest child, we all got together, moved her into college, and made the preparations. And I didn't tell them. I didn't tell a lot of people. Very few people knew, because I know that people a lot of times cannot handle this information, and I needed to be prepared. So if they behaved or reacted in a way that may not have been healthy for me, if I had not dealt with it, I would be okay. And I had to deal with stuff, but life was still going on, so I had to process very slowly. But I also knew I needed to tell everyone before the surgery started. And this is how long it can take, because they have lots of stuff they have to do, lots of testing they have to do to decide what they're going to do. From the time I was diagnosed, July 15th, that was July 15th, we knew I had cancer. I had to have certain other surgeries beforehand, because it wasn't just that was going on at the same time. That, it all was together. One thing that the cancer, and that's why we had to deal with that first. I don't think I had my first surgery until September. In fact, I didn't have my first surgery until September, the beginning of September. Didn't have the surgery to remove the cancer until October. And then chemo started in October. So you all, so that is the whirlwind of the day cancer came to say hello. And July 15th. So here we are 10 years later. I am spending the rest of the day relaxing, spending some time with the Father, getting ready for my next year, which, as you know, is filled with some other scary stuff. But we are going to face it, and we are going to do well. So I just want to encourage you to do what I'm doing. Have courage in adversity. Have courage in pain. Everything we are doing to move forward is not done in vain, you all. Until next time, bye.